Okay, 8th grade. We're not on the board today because we just don't really need to be on the board for what we're doing here because it's basically all in the packet. We're going to be on page 15. If you have that calendar, it's going to tell you 15 through 22. We're just going to do 15 through 19 today just because I think 15 through 22 is a little bit too much for you guys. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about summary. So, you probably summarized a lot of things before without even thinking about the fact that you're summarizing something. So, all a summary is like a brief description of the most important events that happened in either a book, a movie, a TV show, just an episode of a show, whatever it is. It's just the most important events. So here it tells us, your best friend missed her favorite show, she knows you watch it too, and calls asking you to summarize what happened. When you summarize, you briefly retell the main characters, setting, conflict, and important events. To paint as clear a picture as possible, you make sure your summary is objective or free of your own opinions. So all objective means is that you don't insert your own feelings or opinions about the show. So you wouldn't say, oh, it was this really bad episode. You don't say that. You're just telling them what actually happened in the show, not your feelings about what happened. So now we're going to look at these images about a time traveler, and we're going to look for details about character, settings, and events. Now, what is a setting, first of all? The setting is when and where the events took place, okay? So it says the year is 1906. Artemis sets his time machine for the year 2056, only to discover that the future isn't what he'd hoped it'd be. I'm going to fix this really quickly. So in this first section, we see this guy, obviously, and maybe we wouldn't know what this was, but we know it's a time machine, right? And we know this, we can assume that this guy's Artemis based on what this says, and this is happening in 1906. Well, then he, obviously goes through his time machine, and then he comes into the future, which is 2056, and everything's on fire and burning down and all that kind of stuff, and he's not happy about it. So it says, now review the graphic organizer below. Notice that it only includes essential details, tells events in the order that they happened, and is free of personal opinions. So the characters, there's a time traveler. The setting, we have a town of two different time periods, 1906 and 2056. So in the event, the first event, he hops into the time machine, he comes to the future, and he finds that the town is destroyed. So the summary, if we put all of these things together, the two important events, the characters in the setting, we have a time traveler journeys to the future with a time machine and finds that his town has been destroyed. That's a brief summary of what happened. It doesn't include, oh, this dumb time traveler, none of that, because that is your opinion. So you can't include any of that. It says summarizing isn't just a way for you to describe a story to others. It can also be a tool to help you understand what you're reading. Stop occasionally to summarize what has happened. Be sure you include only the most important details. This process will help you check your understanding of the text and remember important details. So what wouldn't be important to include here would be if you said, oh, a guy in a pinstripe suit. That's not important to the story, so you don't need to include that in the summary. Because here, what he's wearing is not important. So let's move on to page 16. We're going to put this into practice now. It says, read the first 3 paragraphs of this science fiction story. It says, touchdown on Spectra Omicron 8. This just in, the UFP Ulysses vessel has touched down on the planet Spectra 8. This signifies the first stage in its terraforming expedition. The complex, multi-stage terraforming process will make Spectra's atmosphere more like that of Earth and livable for humans. Captain Jane Young and her crew of 21 blasted off in May 2218 for the 6-year journey through deep space to reach the lifeless planet. They encountered a number of problems along the way. First, they were stuck in a gravitational pull of an antimatter black hole. They also had to deal with a salmonella outbreak in the ship's food storage. In October of this year, the Ulysses established orbit. Lieutenant Bobby Sullivan pivoted the vessel toward the planet's surface. He set the angle of entry so the ship would not burn up when passing through the atmosphere. After securing visual confirmation of the landing site, Sullivan deployed the landing gear, applied the thrusters, and brought the ship in for a soft 3-point landing. So now we need to look at how we're going to answer this question. So let's look at just this first. How can you best summarize just this part of the story? We need to remember that a summary is a brief retelling that includes the main characters, setting, and important events, and we need to underline each of these in the story. So I'm going to highlight it, but that's doing the same thing. So we need to look at main characters first. What main characters do we see here? Well, we see Captain Jane Young, right, and her crew. So we'll just underline all of that. And then we see Lieutenant Bobby Sullivan, and that's really the only people we see in this story here. Now we look at setting, which is where this takes place. Maybe the Ulysses vessel is the ship that they're in, so that's part of the setting because it's where they're at. And then this planet, Spectra 8, is where they're looking to land, right? So the next thing is the important events. So what are 2 of the important events in this story? So this just in, it's touchdown on planet Spectra. So it touching down would be pretty important. We could say that them encountering a number of problems along the way is an important event, and then we'll go ahead and underline one more. They brought the ship in for a soft 3-point landing. Just them landing is an important event. Okay? So now let's look at this here. It says summary should be objective or free of opinions and judgments. Read the following summary of the story. Cross out any opinions and personal feelings in this summary. In the year 2218, the Ulysses sets off on a really dangerous mission to begin the terraforming of Planet 8. Well, the fact that it's really dangerous, is that an opinion or is that really necessary to what we're understanding? No, it's not necessary. So we would just say on a mission. We would take out really dangerous because that's not important to our understanding of what's happening. They have to deal with some scary problems along the way, but they finally reach the planet. That's not important that it's scary. That is just an opinion. The most interesting part is how pilot Bobby Sullivan brings the ship in for a safe landing. Is the fact that it's the most interesting, is that going to be the most interesting part to everyone? No. So we would just say, take this part out, and at the end we would say pilot Bobby Sullivan takes us in for a safe landing. So now let's move on to page 17. If we read this now, in the year 2218, the Ulysses set off on a mission to begin the terraforming of planet Spectra 8. They have to deal with some problems along the way, but they finally reach the planet. Then Bobby Sullivan brings the ship in for a safe landing. That is a good summary of what we read up here. So let's do page 17 together, and then you guys will do 18 and 19 on your own. So this says, before you start summarizing, underline the names of important characters as well as clues about the setting. Circle important events. I'm just going to highlight all of it because it makes it easier for me. So now that Ulysses has landed, it's time for Young and her team to begin exploring the planet's surface. Spectra Omicron 8 is a little more than loose rocks of red clay. One of Captain Young's top priorities is establishing the Ulysses base camp with its many dome sections. With so much carbon monoxide in the atmosphere, oxygen corridors must be built to connect the domes, which will be used for farming, geological research, and communications. A molten carbon drill will be constructed in the camp center to burrow through to the planet's core, carrying the terraforming unit that will aid in surface reconstruction. So names of important characters, that's what we need to start with. Well, we have Captain Young still, and that's really the only character that we have in this part. So now we need the setting. Obviously, we're looking for important parts of the setting. So The fact that they have this base camp is probably going to be the important part of the setting, because we're not highlighting little details about the setting. So then we're going to circle the important events. So with so much carbon monoxide, it will be used for farming and research. Ulysses has landed. They begin exploring the planet's surface. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. So that's going to be one of the important events. So then the second important event, not the little details, but the important event would be that they begin establishing or building the base camp. So all of this stuff is just little minor details to that. Now what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go ahead and answer the question. We've done this highlighting of important events and important people together. Now I want you guys to answer this question and then go ahead and get started on 18 and 19. And so down here you're going to explain why the other answer choices are not good summaries of the second part of the text. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be available during office hours. You should be able to reach me. Again, you guys need to do pages, finish the bottom of 17 and then do to page 19. Your calendar will say something different, but just do 17, 18, and 19. And if you guys need help, again, I'll be available from 11 to 2, and also I'll be available in the evening from 6 to 7:30 in Zoom for you guys. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me then.